the Business as Unusual show. It is Wednesday. We are on episode number 9, 10, something like that. The world is just, it feels like it's taken about 6 months, but we've only been doing this for 3 weeks. So things are moving so quickly and so rapidly. So on the show, we're going to talk about some of the business challenges that we're facing today. We've got Chris Morris from Christian Aid, who's going to give us some insights into how things are happening in the charity space. Also good opportunity to chat to Chris generally, because at this point we get to go straight into people's living rooms in their world. And on previous shows, it has been invaded by my 3-year-old daughter wearing sunglasses and gloves, some sort of interesting combination of outfit there. But that is the world that we live in. That is the Business as Unusual show, and that's what it's all about. Hopefully it's giving an opportunity to share some ideas, so something is working for us, something is working for Chris, and ultimately gives us all ideas to kind of take back to our own particular worlds. At the same time, hoping to make us all feel a little bit less isolated whilst we are all in isolation. So Chris, how are you? Firstly, thank you for coming on the show. How are you? How's things? How's things in the Morris household?
Yeah, we're getting there. It's been a little bit challenging. I should probably say that I'm one of the lucky ones in a sense, in that my wife's a key worker.
Right.
And even though we've got 2 children, they're both at school, because there's as well as school remaining open for key workers or children of key workers, they've also put on an Easter school as well. So it's been a bit of a godsend, to be honest with you, being able to focus on work during working hours and not have that to contend with kids running around.
So we're not going to have a cameo role from your kids.
No. If it had been yesterday, then you'd have seen them probably, but no, not today.
It's a bit of a shame. I mean, it seems really quiet in my house at the moment, and which is odd. So yeah, I feel like we might have a relatively quiet conversation, which is unusual. But what does your wife do in terms of
So she's not frontline, but so she works for a cancer pathway for an organisation called RM Partners. But she's been pulled into helping with if you imagine all of the care that's needed to deal with the coronavirus patients, those patients that are still needing treatment for cancer. Those hospital beds have been taken up by coronavirus patients, and so they're having to create new cancer treatment centres, almost from scratch, which has been really challenging for her, and she's working really long hours. So
I bet
credit to her.
We had someone on, Dan Locke from Kim's Hospital last Friday, and he was mentioning kind of a green site. Is it a sort of designated green site? Is it one of those?
Yeah, kind of. She's working in South Ken. It's sort of like that, but they're all basically stuck in one room for a whole day, and they're not allowed to leave really. Obviously they're all going home, and if anyone catches it from their other halves, then they have to be really careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise that all grinds to a halt.
So how's things been for you guys in terms of when we're talking to as a charity, as Christian Aid? How's the sort of the last 3-4 weeks been for you, and how have you kind of been trying to deal with the challenges that it brings?
Well, as digital lead, I guess my responsibility is to try and keep everyone going, to deal with the issues caused with our lack of ability to direct fundraise. Christian Aid thrives on its house-to-house approach, especially for Christian Aid Week, which is our key moment, which is next month.
Yeah.
But also, in church fundraising and holding events, all sorts of stuff like that. And so there's now more of a need to be doing more digital fundraising.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy busy the last few weeks.
What's the sort of organisation been like in terms of remote working? Have you been able to adapt to that reasonably well? Has that been something that's that has gone quite smoothly?
Yeah, we've not done too bad actually. We're all pretty used to working from home anyway, so that's not been too much of a challenge. And we use Microsoft Teams, have done for quite some time now, so we're all fully equipped.
Is there anything new, anything that the organisations had to sort of adapt? Because I was just having a conversation with a number of people where You know, they before the crisis, they were providing telecommunications and multi-voice solutions, and they're seeing a massive decline in people using their solution because they're all, you know, a lot of people using Zoom. You know, is there anything that essentially the organization has had to sort of has been forced to do in the last couple of weeks that it almost wouldn't have contemplated doing prior to this situation?
In terms of our fundraising, do you mean?
Yeah, just anything, any bit, like just, you know, even logistics of delivering the, you know, delivering the day-to-day.
We've definitely had to move, you know, quite rapidly. We're thinking of different ways to engage with our supporters, with our audience. So I know a lot of charities are doing it, but we're doing all the virtual quizzes and thinking of ways of engaging our supporters through holding sermons, getting our ambassadors and our celebrities who are close to Christian Aid on board. So we're hoping Rowan Williams will do like a special virtual sermon.
Amazing.
Things like that. We're going to need to keep doing, otherwise we're going to, you know, we lose the emphasis of our face-to-face fundraising, particularly for Christian Aid Week. And so we have to engage, and so we're pushing out more through our digital marketing channels, emails performing like you wouldn't believe. And that's mostly because it's not a surprise really. Our supporters are of that ilk. You know, they're all predominantly 50s, 60s, and so they're really responding to messages that we're pushing out, both on Christian Aid Week and what we're doing there to fill the gap, but also with coronavirus messaging as well.
Absolutely. What I was actually going to ask in terms of the sort of the uptake, obviously you mentioned emails going really well. How are those? How's the virtual activity sort of
we're still in planning phase for that at the moment, but yeah, we're sort of taking inspiration from what others are doing in that space. And yeah, we're doing two things there. So we're encouraging our organisers of fundraising to hold their own virtual quizzes.
Yeah,
and then we'll do one big sort of centrally organised virtual quiz as well, where, you know, that hopefully will be quite a big event that everyone can log on to, and hopefully we can get some serious numbers involved and do some promotion of that. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, really
it's something that we'd never do before. So
sort of forced to do it, but actually,
yeah, we've never got any options. Yeah, and one other thing we're looking at is we thought of the idea of having a digital envelope, which we created a couple of years ago, but never really got to using.
Okay.
As you may know, Christian Aid's famous for its envelope logo.
Yeah,
it's in the Christian Aid lockup itself. And yeah, we're sort of recreating that to send to our supporters, so that it's like a shareable asset that they can send to their own friends as a way of fundraising as well. So as many digital activities as possible we're thinking through at the moment.
Yeah, it's all happening quite quickly as well. I think this
yeah,
we were sort of joking about the sort of the turnaround time, you know, between an idea and actually it being in production is moving to like a 2-hour window where it's kind of, that sounds great, let's do it, and it's kind of it's happening before, which I guess, you know, I mean how prior to the situation, how much sort of control or how bureaucratic, you know, because again, a lot of businesses are, you know, they used to have to go through sign off, and, you know, ideas just never got off the ground. But again, if businesses can't do things quickly currently, then, you know, there's just no point doing them. I mean, how has that been a change in the organization? Are you able to get a bit more sort of control?
We've always felt a sense of I don't know, liberalness in that as digital leader Christian Aid, if we bring good ideas to the table, those ideas will be listened to. And so in the current situation in which we really need to get the income in, yeah, all ideas are welcome. So that's not been too much of a challenge, and it isn't too much to get, you know, as long as those ideas are good and got good grounding and good evidence behind them, yeah, that's not a problem really.
Do you think so? When we move past the sort of the short term, and obviously we've got this kind of, we've been doing a lot of work around the change curve in terms of where businesses are on the change curve, and most of us are past the sort of the panic phase or the scrambling phase where we're just trying to make stuff work. We're now into probably the new normal, so like the kind of the current world, but we're okay with it. We're accepting it. It is what it is. before we move into recovery and new world. Moving into the new world conversation, what do you think is likely to change from the organization's perspective? So what are the things that you're going to be onboarding doing now that you anticipate might be part of actually the new world? Because I just had somebody so I did a talk and we're talking about the curve, and he said actually, we've in previous recessions and 9/11, we all anticipated massive changes and nothing happened. There was no real major change, and I kind of think that this is a different level of change. This is a kind of we're forced to innovate, we're forced to do different things. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, and what things you think might change in terms of behaviors and potential use of technology.
I think to an extent, I think we're already in that spot. Certainly in terms of innovation, the way my mind works is that I always want to continually innovate, and Christian Aid's been quite far behind the curve digitally for up to now, and it's my role really to think about how we innovate, and things like using voice technology to encourage donations is one area that we've looked into, which we can still push a lot more. Also content, really. We thrive on having good content that comes in from the countries in which we're operating in around the world. Unless that content is seamless, coming in quickly, regularly, that we're constantly seeing the benefits of the work that we're doing, that's what our supporters will demand of us now. So if you're going to give to a charity, you want to, especially young people, you want to know where that money is going. And right now we don't really have that. For Christian Aid, it's more like a sort of dip in, dip out approach. So we really need to see that is the change in technology that we need, is to be able to see constantly how that money is making a difference to the people's lives in which we support those beneficiaries. So,
and do you think this forcing of technology means that you'll actually be able to do that sort of more comfortably long term?
I think we'll have to. I think we'll be in order to keep up with other organisations, our competitors. We don't really like to talk about competitors in the charity space, but it's the reality. It's the reality. For especially now with so much at stake, we really need to think about how we can innovate, as you say. So, yeah, I think we have to be looking down those lines.
The other thing I wonder about as well is, do you find that that this is a really potentially good opportunity to reach people that you've never been able to reach before? So the engage, in the sense that because of people's almost the reason I say this is that my parents are reasonably tech savvy, but they are using technology all the time. They are constantly connected with friends. They're doing quizzes and stuff that they would never have done in the real world. Suddenly, even if you're closer friends with people than people that you've never spoken to or never normally would speak to, but as soon as we say lockdown, it's like I can't see them, I can't talk to them. A pub quiz, I've got to do some sort of quiz with them. And I just wonder actually, the opportunity that this brings to people that you couldn't previously reach.
I think you can sum it up. Everyone's in front of a computer at the moment, and so we have to take the opportunity to reach those people. And some of those people might be our typical audiences, but we're pushing out more and more kind of Facebook challenge type activities as well to try and engage newer supporters. Just simple challenges that might hopefully get them on board, get them into our funnel.
Are you seeing that already? Because in terms of the efforts that you've got, are you seeing an uplift in new conversations with people that you haven't spoken to previously?
I'd say with the context of the current situation, I'd say it's still early days. I think if you came back to me in a month or two, I'd be able to give you that answer. But
that's the objective.
We're still trying things out. So see how it goes.
So what just on a kind of a more personal level, what are the things that did you work from home a lot prior to this? Did you work is it something you did a lot of, or?
I have done with a lot of my roles I've had in the past. Yeah, I'm reasonably used to it. Although I would say definitely that the current situation, it almost forces you into needing to be good at having video calls and to be a bit more savvy with all of that kind of stuff.
And
maybe in the,
we've just created a guide as well. So someone, Amber or Charlotte, and hi, by the way, hi Dan, thanks for joining. We can post that in the chat. We have a guide for improving your video conferencing game, because we kind of anticipate this is going to be, we were saying as an organization, like, how many of our new conversations, how many of our pitches are going to be video? How many times are we going to be? In fact, you and I have been talking, and obviously everything's been video based, and so
it does slightly spook me with some potential meetings that you've got in the diary, like a really more important meetings. So we've got a discovery call in the meeting in a month's time or so with another owner, and that's quite an potentially important discovery meeting for a reasonably big project, and there'll be multiple stakeholders on that call. How will that go on a video call? Will we be able to get the most out of that? That worries me a little bit.
I think it's a definite challenge. I've just finished my first. So I do lots of speaking for a CEO network throughout. Well, it's a global one, but in the UK. And I normally do a 3.5-hour workshop with, between 10 and 20 CEOs around a table, and you control the room. You can read body language. You can assess the situation. You can change what you're saying, because you can sense the sort of the shift in mood if it's something that isn't quite right to be talking about. But I've just done my first one remotely, and it was I think it went okay, but it's difficult because you can't, everyone's muted, so everyone's, no one's actually responding, and it's looking at the cameras and going, are they smiling, are they nodding, and you're like, are they falling asleep? I don't quite know. And it's kind of that in itself is going to be
maybe in one sense it might be better, because it will force those people to engage on those calls even more so than if they were stuck in a room in our basement at Christian, for example. So
I think this is the kind of the question. And I guess one of the things we've been thinking about is that obviously trying to replicate the physical environment on a digital one may not be the way to go. Like, rather than trying to sort of make something something that it's not. I'm going to relate this to, because I went vegan 2 years ago. There's just, you can't replicate cheese. Okay, it's just not working. The vegan cheese doesn't work. There's no point even trying. So the point here is try not to sort of make it the same as what it was in the physical world, but actually just try to use technology in the things that it can do that the physical world can't do. I think is probably the way to look at it. I mean, do you think again that might be something that you see more of? Because again, there was someone in the group that I was talking to that they were like, oh, my physical health, and I'm not sure what health problems, challenges they face, but they were saying that actually they were in a much better place being able to work from home. They were much more productive. They didn't have to travel as much. I mean, what's your thoughts around how this could change kind of long term? Again, do you think you're going to use the office as much?
It has crossed my mind whether generally speaking, whether we'll need to be in the office as much, actually, and whether this might become the norm. We probably spend quite a lot of money on renting our office space. Do we need to do that? Can we modernize by being more of a virtual organization? I don't know. Whether that's possible. Maybe for my role it is, because everything that we do is digital technology based. It's probably feasible, but ask my COO. He probably got to have a different viewpoint.
What's your thought around if you had to recruit remotely? Have you ever recruited remotely?
We've done it over the last few weeks.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, we did some interviews a couple of weeks ago for hope I'm okay to say, but it's for a new digital analyst in my team. So it was quite challenging. Just my Wi-Fi is not the best, and so I kept dropping out. And we got there in the end, but it was good. It was good practice to do it. I mean, we got a result out of it, but it was definitely a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah. Any sort of different culture? Any questions that you asked remotely that or like, again, because obviously you can't. They might be dressed nicely from the top up, but not so much. Again, if like how did has it?
Like that video that's going around of that man that's naked around his house. No, it wasn't quite that bad.
Okay.
But, it was fine. Everyone was reasonably professional. So.
How you doing, Dan? You all right?
Yeah, really good. Good to see you, Luke.
Likewise.
I'm reminded of years ago when you did the Folkestone. I think it was one of the Chamber of Commerce events, and you had to do. It was your first time that you'd done a session where everybody's wearing headphones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. It was
Sounds like James Bond.
Oh God, it's like, yeah. So yeah, that was at that was at the Leeds Cliff Hall, I think it was, and there was a talk. And I don't know if you've ever been to those, Chris, where you have a headset that you wear, so that because it's a loud auditorium, so it cuts out all the background noise, so you just listen to it. But the trouble is that you then have like all the talks and stuff I do is aimed at the kind of interaction and kind of gauging the room, and then suddenly you're like, oh no. I can't tell if anyone's responding, and it was it's like kind of going through that all over again. But I don't know if you guys have used Zoom much at all, but have you seen the breakout room features?
No.
So that's quite interesting. I've just been experimenting with that, and if you get the paid for version of Zoom, and I don't work for them, and there's no affiliate link that we're going to be posting, there is a breakout facility, so you can. So I had I think there was it 17, 18 people in the session, and basically you can press a breakout room and you can put people into 5 or 6 different rooms, and then you can jump in and kind of moderate, and so go in, come in and ask kind of questions. So that feature was quite a nice thing. That, Chris, if you're doing discovery meetings and things like that, planning sessions, that was quite a nice feature that I thought worked quite well.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Yeah,
you should put it in your guide, and then we'll have a look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if we've included that, but we definitely need to around the breakout room section. But it made it quite kind of engaging, and they were able to kind of like have a quick sort of sub kind of meeting to kind of discuss things. But Dan, whilst we've got you here, mate, how are things going for you? What's up? How's the world?
I mean, I'm in a fortunate position. I've been working with a lot of my clients for doing their business development, and they want to continue doing that in this and I suppose it's just doing some different things. I heard you guys when I doing so we're trying to sort of do some things for free for them. So one of the marketing agencies I work with it's actually saying, look, we'll start working on stuff and give you some creative for the next kind of 8 to 12 weeks with no commitment from your part, but let's start kind of preparing some stuff in the meantime, so that we and it's just a kind of a much more optimistic way of talking to people, but my kind of way of working has always been about building those relationships, and just because we're in a different time doesn't mean you stop building relationships. I think that's
absolutely. Yeah, agreed. Just a question for both of you. What's your thoughts on sort of the timelines of this in terms of what have you been reading, what have you been listening to that's sort of saying when things start to be moving into a more of a norm in terms of recovery? We move into recovery. What's your thoughts on that?
You don't know who to believe in terms of what you read, really, do you? But I think we'll be in this for another 4 to 6 weeks or so.
In lockdown, you mean?
Yeah, I think so. Maximum, probably something like that. I'm a big Liverpool fan, so I'm waiting for us to win the league, which is a real bind for me. But you keep one eye on the sports headlines as well as the news headlines. But I reckon about a month to leave.
I think scrap the season, null and void it, Chris, and
we won't be doing that. I'm happy to play behind closed doors, as long as we've got that trophy.
Oh man, I think we should start again. Spurs season has been terrible, so I'm kind of like just give up, literally get rid of Mourinho, get a new manager, move on. So
I don't know what Mourinho was doing playing down the park. It was a bit of
I know, breaking ice. And also, for the love of God, man, don't wear branded apparel. Don't wear a Spurs shirt.
He might have been able to get away with that if he'd not done that.
Unbelievable. Dan, what about yourself? What's your thoughts on timelines?
Yeah, it definitely feels like April's gone, and because we're not talking about this peak yet. We don't seem to be talking. We hit a peak. Although from as Chris was saying, there's so many different bits of information coming out. But we're not doubling. That's that's what it seems you know, with Italy, just seem to have this horrible exponential doubling of. We don't seem to have hit that as such. So I think, I think April will be in lockdown. For me, being the optimist, I want to see us kind of working out towards the end of May. So looking at that, and then that kind of feels like 3 months, which is perhaps what they've always talked about. If you look at all the stuff that Rishi Sunak came up with, it was all about 3 months, supporting businesses for 3 months. So that kind of feels right. I'm not saying that we've got it under control, but it doesn't seem to be, you know, rocketing out of control.
I think I read somewhere today that if it goes beyond that, if it goes into June, July time, the economy is really going to start to suffer in a big way.
There's an economist called Roger Martin Fagg, and it was quite positive. So that was last Thursday, and he was saying that if we can get the lockdown to sort of drop down in May, so middle of May, we should see a bounce back pretty fast, because there's a lot of people where there's a lot of money out there at the moment which no one can spend, because actually everybody's kind of stuck in their houses. So there's actually not much they can kind of do. So actually, I think for some businesses there's a planning for quite a quick recovery, hopefully. I think if you're in air travel, maybe not so. The question was whether or not people are up for going on planes without there being the prospect of a vaccination, and the prospect of other countries in terms of how their medical systems might be. So I think there's some positivity in there, and actually planning for a recovery could be quite, you know, sooner than I was initially thinking. Or, you know, and again, I hope he's right, because he may not.
One other thing I've heard is that they might do it in a kind of phased approach, and that they'll let you out for like a couple of weeks, and then there'll be a mini lockdown for another couple of weeks, and then sort of stage it like that. I don't know if that's true or not. But
are you going to coin that drop down phrase there, Luke?
Say again, mate.
You're going to coin that, looking for a drop down in a lockdown?
Oh, I didn't even notice I said it. I'd have to watch that on the rerun. But now that you've reminded me of it, I definitely will coin that phrase as well. That's another one of those ones that I will lock in up here, ready for the right moment.
Work towards that drop down in a lockdown.
I dare you to mention that on every call of these that you're doing.
Absolutely. It's all about buzzwords. It's all about buzzwords right now. I mean, the buzzword that slightly grated me, and it's the first time it's actually for me made sense, is the word pivot. And I heard this word so many times before this situation, and it just infuriated me, because people would use it. Uptick, good one. Like another one that's just, and the pivot one was like, it was essentially used by people where they hadn't really fully thought through their business plan, and so they pivoted, and then they were doing something different. To me now, this is when a pivot makes sense, when actually the world has changed and a pivot makes sense. So it's finally being used properly for the first time, in my opinion. So I do have these slight annoyances with the various different buzzwords that we hear, but I'm okay with pivot now. I've overcome my issues with that one. Guys, we're going to conclude things, but with and we can open this up. So Sophie, if you want to get involved, we do this at the end of each show just for a little bit of fun. Is we're going to play a song, and I'm trying to find some theme tunes whilst I'm doing this. The aim of this, Dan, is that the winner will win some toilet roll. Okay, so when they come back into stock in 2022, you get your hands on some triple ply toilet roll. It's just a bit of fun, and you have to listen, and then you have to shout out the theme tune. Okay, hold on a second. Let me just make sure. Say again.
Is it a TV theme tune?
It is going to be TV theme tune, because I was trying to find some more sci-fi, and I did this on Friday, and it was they got so obscure after the first 3 that I knew of. The rest of them were just made no sense. So we're going to go with some of these. If shout it out, we'll do 5 of them, and whoever is the winner will get some triple ply toilet roll in 2022. Okay, here we go.
We'll be holding, Luke.
Say again, Dan.
We'll be holding you to this in 2020.
Absolutely. Remind me in 2022. Make a note. Make a calendar entry now. Okay, here we go.
No.
Casualty. I think Chris was the first one on that one.
Yeah.
I think it was Chris. I'm gonna go with Chris. Here we go. Oh, I like this one. Nothing.
Peep Show.
The IT Crowd.
Oh, close.
Have you not seen the IT Crowd?
Yeah.
Guys, that is a wicked show. So now that you've got a bit more time on your hands, probably, and you're looking for Netflix series to watch, IT Crowd, genius. Okay, here we go. Another one of my favorites.
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, Sophie. Good work. Absolute classic. Dan trailing behind at this point in time. Come on, Dan.
I'm here. I'm ready. Go.
He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. It's 1-1. One more to declare the winner of the triple ply toilet roll that we are all craving. Here we go. Oh, I don't know. This might be a new one. We'll give it a try, but we might have to do another one. Let's have a try.
Crystal Maze.
Who said Crystal Maze first?
That'd be me.
Oh, controversial. I'll tell you what,
that one on the recording.
I will have to recording, but I'll tell you what. 2022, you can both get some toilet roll. Okay, how about that? Can't say fairer than that.
I'm not sure we're craving 3-ply toilet roll.
I mean, who isn't right now? It's the most searched for thing on the internet. That's what I've learned from the data that we've got. Yeah, so that concludes today's show. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining us. Dan, thanks for coming in as well, for insights into what you're up to, and Sophie, and thanks again for joining. I hope it's been of use to people and some ideas that we're kind of sharing. So we'll be doing another show this Friday. I'm trying to remember who we have got booked in. I think is it Ben Towers? Somebody in the chat.
Yes, Ben Towers.
Ben Towers. We have Ben Towers, young entrepreneur. I think he's about 17 now. No, I think he's not. He's like 20 something now, but he's still ridiculously young and ridiculously awesome at business. So we're going to be quizzing him on the challenges he's faced. He's obviously a speaker, does a lot of live events, which are now not happening. So what's he been doing? How's he been pivoting? There it is, the word. To make sure that things are progressing in this strange new world that we live in. So thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully see you on Friday. If you've got any questions or comments, please chuck them down below, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.